Welcome, everyone out there. This is your latest episode of Operation Marion Watchman, the Watchman's Report. I'm Cody Higley, and with us are our regular co-hosts, Jason Foreman, Robert Landon, and we have a special guest tonight. He is a candidate for the Marion City Charter Commission, Mr. Brian Lovell. Brian, welcome to the Watchman's Report.
Well, thank you. I think I know everybody here. It's good to be on. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, it's kind of a new feature that we have on OMW to try to do a video podcast, bring on special guests like you, members of the community, elected officials, wannabe elected officials, and try to educate uh, the people in the Marion area about what's going on. And there's probably not a bigger political issue that is going on in the city of Marion right now than the charter. So we're going to talk a lot about that, Brian. But before we get going with the big item on the table, tell us a little bit about yourself. So, are you from the Marion area originally? Where did you go to school? What's your background? Tell us about Brian Lovell.
Well, I live in the city. I live on Barnhart Street in Marion, and I'm from Marion, but I'm not. I was born in Elyria up on Lake Erie, but my parents are from here. My grandparents, my great grandparents, and quite possibly some of my double great grandparents are from the Marion area. Um, my dad went to the Ohio State University and became a music teacher, and the one of the first jobs that he took out of college was up in Elyria, and he and my mother married right out of college, and they went there, and then they hatched a couple kids, and I was one of them. Um, when I was about 8 years old, they moved back to the Marion area, and I've been here ever since. My hometown is Elyria, but Marion's my home. I've been here, I mean, my whole life. My grandparents were here. We were here a lot. Um, yeah, so I went to school at Clarendon Elementary and then at River Valley and graduated from River Valley High School. We lived on the east in Marion Township, but we lived on the east side of town. Um, and from there, I went right in. I joined the Explorer post at the sheriff's office when I was still in high school, and which is now the cadet. They call them the public safety cadets, but it's kind of the same concept. And out of the Explorer post, I hired in as a dispatcher, and the rest is history. From that regard, I've worked at the sheriff's office my entire adult life. Retired from there a couple years ago after a long career, and I'm currently a resource officer at the Buckeye Community School on West Center Street in Marion, the old Probst building. For anybody that is familiar with that, Probst, it used to be a plumbing supply store. It's now a school. So I'm there. Have a family, my wife and two grown sons. Raised them here in Marion. Um, yeah, I can
So
keep
you were
going.
a dispatcher for most of your career, or were you
Well, I'm
also?
sorry. Yeah, so I was a dispatcher, and then I went through the academy when I was 21. I went to the road. I was a road patrol deputy. Did that for several years, and at the time, the jail wasn't separated from the sheriff's office. It was part of the operation. So I was on road patrol for several years. I went into the jail division where we took care of prisoners and transported and everything. And when the jail closed, when they opened the multi-county jail, it was a separate operation, and I went back to road patrol. And throughout that, I was a detective for a brief period. I worked in court security, court operations, transport, which for a sheriff's office, that's one of the main duties of a sheriff's office is to shuffle prisoners and deliver people to court for the court process. So I traveled all over Ohio and outside of Ohio, transporting prisoners essentially, taking them to and from court, delivering subpoenas, that sort of thing. Um, dignitary protection a little bit. I mean, that sounds a lot more exciting than what it is. But I mean, I was trained in that. We did some of that kind of work too when people would come to town. So I mean, that's in a nutshell. I was a
What
supervisor.
dignitaries did you protect?
Uh,
Anybody
Mitt
that we would
Romney,
recognize?
Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan. Going back, Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence Oliver North, Ollie North was in town. That was many years ago.
Oh, we just saw a picture of him, Jason.
Yeah,
Did
with
you? Yeah.
Dennis. Dennis is one of the
Yeah.
co-founders of Marion Watch.
Dennis
Potts.
Potts.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and yes. So I was up next to him at the time. I think, in fact, I think I have that picture. I think I have the picture maybe that you saw. I'm not sure, but or a copy of it. But yeah, and I probably a handful. Well, and then like the popcorn festival. You know, sometimes the acts, depending on how big they are or were at the time, we would cover some of that. Things have kind of evolved in the past. In the past, when I first went to the road and the sheriff's office, we spent an inordinate amount of time in town in Marion because the police department was extremely small. They had gone through some layoffs, and so we spent a lot of time policing the city as well as in the county, which the sheriff has authority in town, but you know, you want the city police to police the city. But at the time they were, you know, it was overwhelming. And times have changed a lot. You know, I went through that whole period of time with the advent of cell phones and, you know, social media and you know, we went from none of that to all of that throughout my career. That was the window of time that I was there. So people used to gather a lot more. People used to just and anything in any venue you can think of, clubs and churches and bars and just anything. In the summertime, the city parking lot was a huge attraction for young people and everything, and that was a happening place. And it's, you know, it's all changed. So, you know, we spent a lot of time in town. Yeah, so kind of did it all, I guess. You know, looking back in a nutshell, I can say it was pretty enjoyable. A lot of some triumphs, some tragedies, some terrible things, some great things. You know.
So, what year did you enter the sheriff's department?
So I entered as an explorer in 1984. So that would have been the fall of my sophomore year in high school. Graduated in June 1st of 1986, and then hired in July 4th of 1986. Mm-hmm.
So how has Marion's crime, I guess, environment changed between the mid to late 80s and today?
That's a good question. You know, and I've seen the rise and the fall of a lot of things. It kind of followed trends. If I could, in my experience, and I don't know if statistics would bear this out or not, but in my experience, it seems when I first started, the entire operating system, if you will, was different. People, it was more physically violent when I first started than it is now. And what I mean is people were more apt to like fight with you, you know, throw hands, fists, whatever. And we were a lot more, I mean, it was a lot more, I mean, I was issued, of course, a firearm. At the time it was a revolver when I started, but I was also issued a nightstick and a blackjack. And we were expected to use those, and that was just part. I mean, it was standard. It wasn't anything nefarious. It was a standard tool. We trained with them, and the way you handled situations, people were a lot faster to go hands on, like try to hit you and everything like that. Now it seems that as time has gone on, things are less hands-on, but people are more knives and guns come into it a little bit faster. A lot, so there's a lot more of that. Uh, and I say a lot. I'm not saying hundreds. I mean Marion, but um, it's more prevalent, I should say. People are less willing to fist fight, but they're more willing to pull a gun or a knife or something like that. So that's a big nutshell. And then, I mean, thefts and thefts, like when you talk about crime, you talk about like thefts, break-ins, things like that. There used to be more of that. It seems to me, and again, that's in my experience, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you could maybe pull up a stat or everybody publishes reports, but in my viewer, it just seems that a lot of the petty thieving uh, from cars, like car break-ins and things like that, it still happens, but it's not like it was. It's kind of slowed down. There are more people have more cameras, ring cameras. Car cameras, things. So there's a lot more video. So it kind of takes the wind out of that sail. So I mean, it's still pretty constant though. I remember when the crack cocaine epidemic first started, and people were, that was going to end the world. And I mean, it was bad news for a while because it was new and it hit the street and everybody was trying it, and there were a lot of problems with it. But it kind of came and went. And then I've seen the heroin and the fentanyl epidemic take off, and that's pretty fatal. I mean, that's pretty sad to see, and that seems to kind of go in waves. So that's, I mean, I hope I answered that. That's kind of in a nutshell, but
Yeah.
So you would say it's just been changes, but as far as an overall safety in the city of Marion, you think it's been about the same?
I think the safety of the city probably, I mean, I've got to say, I think it's probably better than what it's been. The the police wherever you are don't have a very good reputation by virtue of what they do. And with the advent of YouTube and things like that, if a cop's having a bad day and he he acts out and does something stupid, well, then everybody in the world says, well, there was a guy that did that here too, and yada yada and all that. But overall, I have to say that I think when you work in a sheriff's office in a small town, especially, it's like the Army and the Navy and the Marines and everybody like that. They got their own little camp, and they think everybody else is, they're always, oh, we're better than you and all that. And so it's hard for me to say. I'm joking, it's not, but I really think that the Marion Police Department right now, as an organization, is pretty perfect. They do a good job. They do a good job. So I would say, as far as safety goes, things are better than they've been in the city. That's my observation.
If I may, Cody, Brian, were you around when there was the was it the Tecumseh riots? Is that right? Back in the 80s? I know, Cody, you and we were just talking with Jason about that. Were you around on the force back then?
No, I remember that, but that I would think I was probably. I'm trying to think what year that was. It was about 1982.
That was
maybe
83.
83. Okay, so I would have been about, well, I remember when that happened because I remember driving through town with my dad one morning and seeing all the law enforcement and stuff around, the cops and everything, different people. But we didn't go down to Tecumseh, but I mean, they were like different places in town. And so I would have been about a sophomore, maybe, or I mean, about a freshman or a sophomore, I think, when that happened.
Okay. Do you have any interesting stories to share about maybe that particular instance, or maybe some aftermath? Were there any kind of reforms at that time? Do you have any kind of insights to the history of that story?
It's enough before my time that I really don't. I think that basically the belief is, and I don't know, Jason, was anybody in your family there?
I know that I've talked to my mother about it. Dennis has told me quite a lot about stuff like that. I think he was active. He would have been a younger officer at that time, of course.
I think he was too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that Marion has a long history, and the financial things that have come about, that all played into it. So it's very, very interesting to us. Of course,
Yeah,
we always talk
I
about
mean
it.
that's where I can go with that. I remember watching the town. It seemed like it was kind of, and I don't. It might have been, it might have been indicative of just things in general in the early '80s. But it seemed like the town kind of started kind of going down. I hate to say this, but going downhill.
Mhm.
Tecumseh pulled
Well, you
out, and then
can't lose pretty much your entire economy, your manufacturing base. Pretty
right,
much every manufacturer employed hundreds of people, and if you combine them all together, thousands of people in literally a few years, a decade.
yeah, yeah,
And it was an absolute gutting of the economy of the city of Marion, and not have fallout from that.
right.
Um, I am curious though. So you said that the sheriff in your earlier years, because of reduced force in the Marion Police Department, you guys were patrolling the city, right?
Helping, yeah. I mean, the city still you always defer. You give primary jurisdiction to the primary jurisdiction, but yeah, we were in town quite a lot. What I was thinking about also was like when I first started, the sheriff's office, a lot of the just a small example, like the popcorn festival. So when they would beer gardens used to be a lot bigger thing than they are now, but they're used to have these great big beer gardens, and they would have to. I think it might have been because of their license or something like that. They had to have like hire off-duty law enforcement to be at the beer gardens and stuff, and the sheriff's they would hire deputies, like a certain number of deputies to cover these beer gardens because there weren't enough city policemen. I mean, the cops that were on duty and this, handling calls, and they were in town and everything. And then, they offered up, like, say they had, I don't know, 20 slots, and there's only like 10 city officers that could fill the slots. So then they'd hire us in to do that. But then there were other times where we would respond to, to every sort of call. I mean, domestics or, anything, fight, a lot of backup stuff too. I mean, they'd get bar fights were a huge thing then, and they're not anymore as much. But I mean, they get a big bar fight where there's 50 people fighting and stuff, and it's kind of all hands on deck. So that
Get that blackjack out.
yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey,
Yep.
Brian, I'm curious now. Can you tell me what would be the biggest altercation you've seen or been a part of, responding to?
Oh, behind the Cadillac Club. Remember the Cadillac Club? Anybody remember that? Or is that
I do
before your
not.
time?
I
Before
definitely
my
remember
So
it.
it was whatever. Do you remember the bar behind the mall, on the backside of the mall?
Yeah.
So when that first became a place, that was Night Moves. And
Okay.
then those places have about I don't know, probably like a 3 to 7 year lifetime, and then they kind of run their course. So then they rebrand them and stuff. And so it was Night Moves, and then it became the Cadillac Club. And yeah, they some of the big stuff that we get into. At closing time, they, last call, then they, chase the bouncers and chase everybody out in the parking lot. Well, everybody that, bumped into each other inside and everything, they'd get, how it goes. And so
Yes.
we show up down there, and there'd be 200 people out in the parking lot, and nobody wanted to leave, and they were all screaming and yelling and fighting. And that was probably some of the biggest ones. I do remember a few, believe it or not, in Leroux. There used to be a place on the main drag in Leroux. Cooney's is still there, and Cooney's is they've got great fish. It's a quiet little restaurant now, but I mean it still looks the same. But that was a bar on the west side of the street. Well, on the east side of the street was a bar called the Berry Patch, and we would get calls they're fighting at the Berry Patch, and I remember riding out there one night many years ago, and turn in the corner, because you go in on 95 and then you turn on 37 there and turn up 37 right there. And the street was filled with people, and they were all, it seemed like
Yeah.
everybody was fighting then too. So help came from Hardin County and Wyandotte County and Richwood. And so, yeah, those were the days.
Yeah, thank you for your
Now,
service,
now,
man. I
now
know
we
that's a
just
rough
fight
job.
digitally on social media, Brian.
What's that?
I said, now we just fight digitally on social media.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, screen warriors.
Yeah.
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 So what are your
So, with
top
your long
concerns?
career in law enforcement, can you comment on, like, I imagine that the sheriff's office has a pretty close connection with the municipal government and the officials in the city of Marion. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's separate. I mean, it's pretty much people kind of stay out of it. But yes, the current sheriff is a retired lieutenant from the police department. So there's knowledge there. I mean, we have a lot, and by virtue of me living in town, if you're, I don't, whatever direction you go with that. If you're asking me, like by virtue of living in town, we've known, we pay attention to each other. And there are relations that cross, that cross paths. They cross, but I don't know. Municipal government is separate from county government. There's definitely silos or walls and everything. But yeah, we pay attention.
So, from just professional experience, not necessarily as a resident of the city of Marion, did you notice differences between administrations? So you would have started, I imagine, under the mayorship of Doc Brown, or was Kellogg in there when you were, well, Doc Brown would be if you were in the late 80s then, right?
Yeah, I remember Doc Brown.
So it would have
And I
been
knew him
him and
because
then
Doc was a county
Kellogg and
commissioner.
Scherzer and yeah.
Yeah, I don't Doc was, I think he was still the mayor when I hired. Doc was a county commissioner before, and I remember when he was a county commissioner and everything. I think he was the mayor when I hired in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you were what, 87, 88?
80, well, I hired in 86. So
Yeah. Yeah. So it would have been Ron Malone and then
yeah.
Doc
Yep.
Brown. But did you notice, just from a professional standpoint at the sheriff's department, is there any noticeable differences between like administrations and how the impact on the sheriff's department, or do you guys, you're so disconnected that it doesn't really matter
Um,
who's in power in Marion, I guess?
yeah, it's kind of strange because in county government, county government doesn't have legislative authority. Everything that a county, like the sheriff, enforces state law in the county, and then they can any statute that's on the book within his jurisdiction, he can enforce that also. It's kind of strange, but um, if townships have, like if Marion Township has an ordinance, or well, any township in Marion County has an ordinance, the sheriff can enforce that ordinance. So there is that, and there is like, we would pass through town, and we were in town a lot. But as far as like really having much effect, I can't really. I mean, basically, it was like we kind of, that's, if we saw, if there was something, and I'm trying to think of something that would be an example, but I really don't think that we didn't really stick our, well, we would say stick our nose into their business, I guess. That I can think of. I don't, and again, I'm not, my memory isn't like, on some of that. There were
Yeah,
times when
that's fair.
we would get into, we get, but mostly, and like I said, I'm not, I don't know about the commissioners and like the council and the mayors and things like that. I don't know about all that. I just know basically the relationship between the sheriff's office and the police department, mostly. The fire department a little bit, but mostly us. I say us, the sheriff's office and the city police. The relationship between the officers was always generally pretty good. Sometimes the sheriff and the administration at different times didn't always get along. I'm saying, I should say the police department administration, not necessarily the mayor, but I don't.
So as a long-term resident of the city and longtime employee of the county. What do you feel are the challenges of municipal government in Marion now, and since you've been paying attention, uh, what do you think the biggest issues, the biggest challenges that need to be addressed?
So one thing that I have noticed across the years, and it's kind of come about, it came to a head for me, recently is, or within the past few years, is the issue with the finances. Um, City council has been, and I was around, I paid attention from a distance. I mean, I can go into, there's all kinds of reasons why. But I paid attention from a distance, and I always was thankful that I wasn't involved in city government. Because, and really, I guess maybe that isn't all the way fair, because again, county government is not a legislative authority. So the commissioners, the commissioner, it's all pretty much set up, and they just have to like administrate the funding and
Right.
deal with funding the agencies that are county government agencies. And beyond that, I mean, they don't write law, they don't have they don't have that component of all of that. So city government does. And
Mhm.
city council, I'm just glad I'm not I'm glad I wasn't on that side of it. I will say, though, that I do remember over the years the city government being solidly in the hands of the Democrat Party. Going back to the Malone administration, I remember Ron
For a
Malone.
long time. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's just,
yeah,
you
and
know,
it was and that was always, the city traditionally was very, very blue, if you will, very Democratic, and the county was very Republican. Um, and a lot of that had to do with the labor unions and everything when the shops were big in town and so forth. Well, that that ship has sailed. Um, but you know, moving forward, and I don't have like it's more of a broad understanding, just hearing things and then reading things, and it's like it's more of the same. But so Doc Brown was the mayor, and I think the commissioner, or I'm sorry, I think the council was generally Republican. It was kind of split back and forth. And then Jack Kellogg was the mayor for a long time, and pretty Republican council. Scott Schertzer gets elected mayor and is mayor for too long, and has a Republic, or I think there were quite a few. I don't know if it was in Democrat control, but there were a lot of Democrats on the board,
Yeah.
on council. The Republicans kind of sweep back, and then with Billy, with Billy Collins, I think there's one Democrat on council right now. I think it's Ayers Ratliff. I think that's it.
Mhm.
Mark Russell, the law director, is a Democrat, but I think, or maybe an independent even. I know he started out as a Democrat, but I think it's all solidly Republican again. With that said, it seems like the ongoing problems with that, though, is the money. And I thought, well, so the Republicans are talking about, and I'm a Republican, so Republicans talk about being fiscally responsible. It's like, well, let's get in there and open the books up and let's see what the heck's going on. Well, here we are, and council has a finance committee. They have to spend money. They have to, and this, Robert, you you were
Mhm.
there, but I mean, the auditor and the treasurer and everything. So we have the auditor and the treasurer, and I'm sorry, but I'm generally like less government or more people elected and so forth. However, in this situation here, I don't know how accountability can be maintained if council is tasked with spending our money, and they don't have the authority to move the parts to the treasurer, the auditor, and everything like that, and they tell them what they need, and the auditor, the treasurer, well, you can't tell me what to do, I'm an elected official. And
Yeah.
they just, and currently we see that. I mean, it's just, I wasn't trained to do that, and I'm not doing it. And it's like, well, it's your job. If they didn't show you, let's show you. Well, we're not, and blah blah blah. So my contention is, I mean, they started this charter commission thing, and I thought, more people need to get involved in this, and we're in a kind of a sweet spot right now in Marion. I mean, in a lot of part of Ohio, but I mean, there's a lot of good things going on in this town, and I want to see it improve and continue and everything. I mean, I'm gonna die here. That's the plan anyway, and my family has no. I don't think they're leaving. I want to see it do well. I think that the finances are the main thing. I think it needs to be brought under control of the council and the mayor.
Yeah, that's our top statistical driver. I've been saying this since we came back up. It has been for many years, and we've done a ton of research. We started in 18, and we're just kind of finishing up, what we started last time, and it was bad then. And the further back we look, the worse it gets. So
Yeah.
it seems to
And
be the
there's no
general
reason for it. I mean,
consensus.
everybody's on the same page. I mean, we've got, so, I mean, if they want to say it's a political thing, I mean, so the Republicans are in control. So they want to get it done. And for whatever reason, they're getting log jammed, and they can't, they ask things and nothing against any of these people. I don't know. I really don't know I mean, I know who they are, but I don't really know them. I know some of the city council members. You know, Nobody's perfect, but I mean, generally speaking, they just want to be able to account for the books and move it forward. I've heard things with a charter commission. Some of the people have gotten a little bit, we're going to go in and do this and do that. It's like, I don't want to be the government. We elect the government, and I want my ward councilman and my at-large councilman to be strong and powerful. And if I got to, and I'm not afraid to reach out to them, if I got to get my hands on them and say, look, dude, I need something from you, or this is what's going on in my neighborhood. I want something. I want them to be able to have the authority to take it to council and get it at least heard and resolved. And I know there's a process, and that's what I want to see. But I think that if we're structuring that government, I mean, we need, and we need a strong, we need strong elected officials, I think. But if we're structuring that government, I think that we need to bring the money under control of council and the finance committee. And the best way to do that is to eliminate the treasurer and the auditor's office and have them create we've got the safety director and we've got the service director. So safety oversees what? The police, the fire department, and I'm not sure what else. And service oversees sanitation and parks and all of that. Well, those people are appointed, and they answer to council. Now, the law director, he's elected, whatever, that's fine. But we need a professional. We need, I think, I don't know that titles are a thing, but I mean, if you have a CPA or a CPA firm or people that specialize in handling, small government, municipal government and everything, then they can go outside of the city and hire a qualified firm to audit our books and to pay, to do the business. And they answer to council, finance, however that works, finance committee on council. And
There's a whole lot of talk about special interests. I think Cody and Landon will agree with me on this. There's a lot of talk on the internet that's statistically significant about special interests controlling this for some kind of nefarious purpose. What would you say about that?
I see the same things that you see, and I understand, believe me, I understand why people think that way. I don't see it. I don't know what along that line, one of the things that I said was, and this is way down on my list. But I think that in order to address that, then perhaps there should be maybe some discussion about term limiting. That can be a hot button in either direction, though. And I think the most important thing to do, and my driving thing, is going to be the finances now. And then the second thing is second or third. I mean, I've got generally term limit. So the mayor, in my humble opinion, I think the mayor should or could be term limited to two consecutive terms, 2 consecutive 4-year terms. The governor of Ohio is term limit. And, this is, again, I think everybody here before your time, but we had a governor in Ohio named Jim Rhodes, Governor Rhodes. And he was, I think he was the governor for like most of my life in the early days, but he was the governor for 2 terms. He was out of term and then he came back. So that's not like shutting people completely out that feel like they got to be in government forever. But, I tend toward the founding fathers. Their idea of government service is you take a hiatus from your job, go serve in government, and then you go back to your job. I don't think that it should be a career. That's my opinion. But operationally speaking, I think that, the mayor could be term limited to 2 consecutive terms. And then I think council members should serve 4-year terms, but they should be staggered. I think that, we have a 9-member council. I'd like to see council elections every 2 years, but, 1 year, 4 seats, the next year, 5 seats, 1 year, 4, however. I mean, that and that can be negotiated. That to me, it just makes things more stable, and it can bring things, fresh at the same time. I mean, what happened when our council that's seated now went into office? They went into office on New Year's Day, got sworn in, and then had to call an emergency meeting right after that because the mayor on his way out vetoed the budget as his the former Mayor Scott Schertzer, vetoed the budget on his way out the door.
Yeah.
And so, the bills have to be paid, the lights have to stay on, you got to pay the firemen and the sanitation guys and the cops and everybody like that. And, so he stuck them. And to me, I think if we build those term limits into place, that kind of stands some of that off. So you don't have all 9 people coming in and having to deal with things like that. But again, that's kind of more like that. My understanding is with a charter too, you can revisit it.
Yes.
Once it's in place, you can revisit that. So I would say if I had, in my humble opinion, again, because I'm going to be, if I'm elected to that, I'm one of 15 people. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that have a lot of ideas and everything. But that's kind of my driving point. And that's about it. I mean, I'm not really exciting. I'm not, I just think that it has to do, I think it just makes sense.
Well, let's I'm going to interject here, Brian.
Yeah.
So you talked about the ability of the charter to be reviewed periodically. Now that's going to consist of a charter review commission. So just very similar to the charter commission that would draft the charter for approval by the voters, the charter review commission is going to be made up of citizens of the city, and their responsibility is to review the charter, how it's working, and then to suggest any amendments or any changes. And then those changes would then appear on a future ballot for the voters to approve.
Sure.
Now, certain charter cities, if you look into their charter review processes, they'll review the charters every 5 years, every 7 years, every 10 years. So it varies. So that's one of the things that the Marion City Charter Commission, I think, is a crucial component of that. How often do you want your charter to be reviewed for changes? What say you, Brian Lovell? Would you be in favor of a more frequent, so maybe the 5-year duration, or would you want to look at that less often, maybe 10 years?
Oh, 5 to 7 years, I would say. You have to, and 5. I mean, there's some things, because people asked me a question. I don't even remember what the question was the other night, and I said I'm not opposed to that. I mean, whatever. And they were like, "Well, that's a political answer." I said I'm really not opposed. I don't. I'm in favor of review. I'm in favor of but 5 years could seem a little frequent because it's a monumental task to bring together to do that. So I mean, and it's not on. It's an important task, but I mean, 5 to 7 years, I suppose. Um,
Yeah.
You know, I'm open to that. I'm open to listening. You know, yeah.
So
I mean,
do you have any, or what are your thoughts? I mean, there's various types of charter governments that could be the outcome
sure.
of this process. So, are you in favor of maintaining like the council mayor form? Um, would you entertain, even though you're going into this, maybe you don't 100% get behind the council city manager form? Is that something that you would entertain discussions on, or do you see, are you 100% like, yes, I think the system that we have of a elected mayor with an elected council, that is how it needs to be? Or would you be open to the possibility of council hiring somebody who, a city manager, somebody who is going to be required to possess relevant work experience in public administration, relevant education, public administration? Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would. I guess I would entertain the discussion. I would be interested to find out more. My where I lean toward things is I believe in elections, and that's kind of funny to say because I say that with what I just said about eliminating the auditor and treasurer's positions and putting them under the control of council. Um, I think that again, I can hear what I'm hearing and banging around in my ears or in my in my head is this, you know, oh, good old boy, you know, the mayor's the good old boy, and I'm not thinking of any one mayor, but I'm saying that it's kind of a good old boy club. But in my opinion, if we create something where we elect people to create something else aside from the elected positions to do the day to day, that insulates the elected officials more. Um, I'm willing to listen. I'm not, you know, I'm not completely stuck there, but I generally like, you know, strong elected officials. Again, you know, what I said about my councilman, I want to be able to get my hands on them. Well, I'd like to be able to get my hands on the mayor too, if I need to. And if I think the mayor is doing something wrong or something like that, and he or she aren't doing what I think they should do, then I am free to campaign against them, to you know, do the usual, you know, do it all. I think you lose, in my opinion, I think you lose a little bit of that um, with creating, with bureaucratizing. I mean, that's kind of what I feel like. I don't know. Again, I would listen though. I would listen to the pitch, and I think I understand the question because you know it takes qualification and everything. But um, I've read up on some of those things, and if if the job of a mayor of a town or a city is too complicated to elect a citizen to it, then maybe the job is then it should be simplified. I don't know. That's more theoretical than
Well, a bad city manager can be fired by
right,
council.
right.
A bad mayor, oh, I got to wait until his term is over in 4 years
Yeah,
or three
yeah.
years.
You can. I mean, you
So
can recall them or impeach them. Maybe I don't know, but yeah. No, I
how
get you.
how
I get
how how often are those
you. Yeah.
recall initiatives successful?
Right.
Not successful.
Right.
So it'd have to be really bad in order to rally enough support in order to try to recall an elected official.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I think that the same logic. I'm not necessarily saying that that is the be all end all, but if you're going to have the logic that we need a competent individual, a credentialed individual, a qualified individual to serve in a position like director of finance or law director, even to make that an appointed position. That way you don't have to rely on only those potential candidates that reside within the city limits, then the same logic can be applied to a position like the city manager. And then you still have your elected legislative body. So you still have an elected council. Now that brings a question. You talked about the just obvious common sense approach of staggering the terms, and then also maybe extending council's term from 2 years to 4 years.
Yes.
Would you make any other changes to how city council is structured? Would you maintain that one city council member is elected from each of Marion's 6 wards, and then 3 are elected at large? Or would you make them all at large? And then would you maintain the 9 council members, or would you reduce it to 5, 7? What are your thoughts on that? Now, before you answer, the logic seems to be of reducing the number is that it increases efficiency, because if you have 7 people, it's easier to, get something through, to work amongst that group with a smaller number. And there are comparable cities in the state of Ohio that have done just that. I think maybe one has trimmed it down to 5. I think there's quite a few of those charter cities that have trimmed it down to 7. And some of them have gone to an all at large basis. So what are your thoughts on that, Brian?
I kind of feel like I kind of think that I like the way it is structured. In addition to, I don't know if I said this or not, with the council members being stretched to 4-year terms, those would be consecutive terms limited also. I think I said 3 terms, but that's just a number. So, I mean, I think council members should serve 4-year terms, staggered 4-year terms, but consecutive terms, and then be limited out. But with your question about the wards and the at large, I don't think that I don't feel or perceive a problem with the way that it is. I like the fact that each ward has a councilman or a council person. It brings representation from across the town. I know a lot of people, and this is kind of leans toward partisanism a little bit, but a lot of people think that if we went to an entire at-large situation, that everybody had come out of what is now the 6th ward. And
that's a fair theory.
I think
based
so.
on the number of people that actually vote.
Right.
In the different wards, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's a lot of things. I mean, you can't. I don't know. I mean, there can't be. I mean, I've heard different things. I wish more people were involved in this process. I really, really do. But I think that's just. You hope against hope. You wish against wish, whatever. People, you have a small percentage of people, but I think if we changed it to an entire at-large situation, I think we would fly. There's a phrase, concentrate power. I think it would put everything over in, and I mean, I hear people say that, and I kind of tend to agree. In my opinion, I think that council, the structure of council is just fine. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at on that. I don't know. Again,
there's definitely, I think that argument makes sense on having a representative on council from each part of the city. That makes a lot of sense. Now, the other component on that, though, is if you're truly trying to get the very best people, if you have somebody that can garner 1,500 votes in the 6th ward but loses, and you got somebody that can garner 150 votes in the 2nd ward and wins, there actually is kind of a disparity there. So that person is more popular than that person in the 2nd ward, but because nobody votes comparatively, they still got a spot. The other, you mentioned partisan. So would you be in favor of removing uh, partisan affiliation from elected positions in the city by the way of the charter? Or do you find value in having those partisan affiliations?
I think it's fine the way that it is. I think it's valuable. Um, you know, we can, we've had I've been privy to some of those, not with the charter stuff, with the other things, privy to some of those discussions about like school boards and township trustees and everything. The one thing that when you have a partisan, race, it eliminates a whole class of people though from being able to participate because of that. Now, like when I worked at the sheriff's office all those years, I was a classified employee. So that prohibits me from partisan politics, running in a partisan seat. I could have run for a school board seat. I could have run for a township trustee or something like that. I couldn't run for city council. Couldn't run for, because you have to declare your politics. So, but I think it's fine the way. I mean, again, you can't deny. I mean, that's something. It seems like that the if you will, the losing party wants to do away with labels, but the winning party
I
wants to
think
keep.
that's logical. I think that's a logical opinion for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not. I think that structure is okay. But like I said, the one thing, I can see both sides of that, but I'm leaning more toward leaving it the way that it is. I think it's fine to be a Republican or a Democrat. I mean, we have them. We can't deny that exists. So I think that's fair.
Now, Robert, as a fellow Charter Commission candidate, uh, what are some of the hot button questions you have for Mr. Lovell?
No, I was going to ask, because we kind of touched on it a little bit, how far do we really want to go with the appointed officials? Obviously touching on the law director's position, combining that into an appointed position like we would a city treasurer and a city auditor position into a director of finance. Cody has done extensive research, actually, pretty impressive, on the number of licensed attorneys we have in the city of Marion. We just have such a very limited pool, and this is no disrespect to any of them. I don't even know which ones they are. Cody might have better handle on that. But just the number of candidates that would be able to step in, if God forbid something happened with the law director, who takes over. And so again, it's no disrespect to anybody in the city, but when you want to draw in the maximum amount of talent, you have to be able to open up those positions to people outside of the city. And we can still require a residency. For instance, most cases, they're required to move into the city within 90 days of accepting the position.
Sure.
Can you give us some thoughts on that?
Sure. Thoughts on it are, so most, if not all, the villages that are incorporated villages have a village solicitor position, and usually it's an attorney in Marion. Caledonia, I'm assuming, now I don't know, this is the way it used to be, I don't know what it is currently, but I know, Caledonia, LaRue, Waldo, Morrill, all of them have like legal counsel. And if it's not the because the county
never shows up, Brian.
What's that?
Caledonia's solicitor never shows up to the meeting.
Well, that's
Seriously, it doesn't come.
That's good. Well, that's always good. But yeah, I mean, they retain a law firm to represent them, and that's and granted, I mean, it's again, amount of business and so forth. I understand that. I guess I wouldn't be opposed to that. What I'm thinking here among, all of us here on the screen and then whoever else is watching is that I have to remember a couple things. First of all, the charter has to be voted. A majority of the voters in the city have to vote to, yes, we want a charter. And then, the charter commission goes active. After the charter commission hands over its findings or its ideas or whatever like that, it goes back to the voters again. And which is why I would say, I mean, I like, broad colors and or vivid colors and broad action and all that sort of thing. I don't know how far we can go with really changing things up, because each step of the way, it depends, I guess, on whose interest, I know that you brought up interest, special interest, whatever, whose interest is being touched on that. I am not. I kind of have, Robert. I've kind of thought some of the same things. And jokingly, I said, well, they all moved to Pleasant Township, but but I kind of have to think that would not be a bad idea structurally. That every time we talk about this, and you do too, you see a face and you say, okay, so now what are we going to do? And I guess what I'm focusing on, I'm willing to work on things and discuss those things. I'm not opposed to changing some things. My main drive over the whole thing, though, and that's just again back to my over all those years of watching all these things take place, is getting the money, at least getting the money under control.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I think again, you have a safety director, and he's appointed. You have a service director, he's appointed, she or he is appointed.
Yeah.
I
kind of like,
the parks director, different people like that, they're all appointed. But they're still answerable. And that's the thing. I mean, you have a council, and then you have a mayor. So you have an executive, and you have a legislative body, and they answer to them. And, the finance committee, in that regard. So yeah, no, I all that to say, I guess I'm rambling on, but all that to say, I would not be opposed to that.
yeah. I think
I'm sure you saw it, Brian, but just for those out in the ether who maybe didn't read the article, out of a population of about 35,000 people in the city of Marion,
yeah,
there are, by my research, and I referenced the American Bar Association, cross-referenced it with auditor information, Board of Elections information, 18 licensed attorneys who reside in the city of Marion.
oh yeah.
The median age of those individuals is 68.
Yeah, I was going to say they're licensed, but are they still practicing?
Something happens to our current law director, who has been in that position for 32 years.
Yeah.
Who are we going to get? Especially when you look at there's a Pew study out there that says that only 2% of Americans will ever run for elected office in their lifetimes.
Yeah.
So statistically speaking, it ain't good.
Right.
So
I agree.
You really need to look at broadening that candidate pool by making the law director position an appointed position. Because like you said, did they all move out to Pleasant Township or Clarendon Township? Because we have attorneys. It's not like attorneys don't exist.
Right.
But they don't, not many of them live in the city of Marion.
Right.
So that is are they just going to start flooding in? And how many new arrivals then just suddenly say, well, you know what, I just moved here and I'm hanging a shingle in law and starting my own practice.
Right.
I think I'm going to run for law director next year. That's usually not how it works.
And then here's the other thing to piggyback on top of that. You had somebody, I think it was in 15, I think our current prosecutor, Ray Grogan, ran against Mark Russell and lost. And I think that was like his first, I don't want to say it was his first opponent, but probably first viable opponent, in his 32 years. I think we went back and we were talking about this. I can't recall a standout prosecutor that really challenged Russell for at least the first half of his career, probably the majority of his career. So even if, let's say, it even reverses course back into the Republicans camp and we get a Republican law director in there, how healthy is it for us to have only one party's representation? Nobody can challenge them. We don't really have candidates on either side to really make it a contested race. And, if they, God forbid, there's, some other things that happen in there, they go kind of awry. How do we really challenge that outside of just a slow legal process. I think we all know the legal system needs improved too. So you have that aspect too. We can't really challenge people because once you do get somebody in there, there's really nobody else to run against them. And so then you're setting up a career politician in that position. And I have reservations with that too, because we've spoken on the first episode. I've spoken this elsewhere about, I really think if you look at our political system at every level, prosecutors have this dictatorial power that you just don't really see in any other role. And our founders were very against that. And this is one of those roles where they almost have absolute immunity, which is really atrocious to our founding principles. And so if we allow it to stay in this current framework, I think we're just going to continue to get a career bureaucrat there.
Sure. No, I'm with you. I get it. I guess what I'm thinking two things. Theoretically, I agree with you. I agree with you. But I'm looking at it again, like what does it take to move this thing forward? I'm with you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if we were able to get enough support on the commission, I think that's probably the biggest factor there, because I don't think there's really a lot of issue if you already have a commission there and we're already making changes structurally to auditor, treasurer, and term limits and so on. It really doesn't add a whole extra step to throw in an appointed law director. There's already frameworks we can even copy if we wanted to, looking at our neighbors to the south. So it wouldn't really be too difficult. But I see, I think our first guest last week was even saying that maybe not doing too many changes at once. But I think we have a pretty good argument to do that, because if we're going to do it, why not now? Why kick the can down the road and have other issues that we create? So just a thought. I know we're kind of running low on time. Brian, can you tell us why do you think you are the right candidate for this commission?
I'm one of if I'm chosen, I'll be one of 15. I think that more people in this town should, and everywhere, more people should be involved in their government. I mean, I do not want to be a city councilman. I don't want to run for office. I don't want to, but I think this is important. I've told a couple people I don't want to I don't want to run for office. I at this point, I mean, I'm going to say that because somewhere down the road, if I end up running for trustee or something like that, well, you didn't want to run for office. Well, whatever. I mean, I am who I am. I'm what, and I'm here I is. But I just think that more people need to step up, and if I don't want to be the government, but I can help structure the government, and back to. I want to see this town. I mean, there's been, I mean, we've all been around. There's been a lot of shenanigans and stuff, if you will. And I think that it's time to take a broom and a dustpan and clean some of that stuff out of the corners and just look, let's just, and I'm not, it's not personalities. It's not any of that. There's people that I like, people I don't like, people that I prefer, that I don't prefer, and so forth. But I mean, as far as, setting the structure, I just think that, again, maybe not perfect, but I think that we should it's time to do that. And I would like to see more people with kind of that mentality. It's just, kind of a no, am I allowed to say BS on here?
Yeah,
no BS mentality.
Swear away. This is not FCC regulated.
But that's all. But I mean that I just that's what that and if anybody has any questions, I certainly if I start if I start rambling or start him-hawing around, it's just because I don't know. I haven't thought of it. But I mean, basically everything I've heard you guys talk about, it's like I'm willing to listen. I mean, it just seems to me that looking at, from the overview from a way back and looking at it, the issue is back to the money. And if we can somehow bring that under control, the finance committee and the whatever, the finance chair, the committee chairman, everything, they hand it up to council, and the council says, do this, then guess what? they're going to do it. They're not going to go to somebody who's another elected official says, well, you can't tell me what to do. I'm an elected official. And it's like, nah, we're just going to do this. And this eliminates a lot of the nonsense. But a lot of this other stuff you're talking about, I'm willing to discuss it and, whatever. I don't, I think operationally, overall, I think things are okay. I just think that except with that's the glaring problem is the issue with the money. They need to clean that up and clear it up.
I got to ask. I want your opinion on this, Brian.
Yeah.
So the process, if voters approve this November to impanel a charter commission then will draft it within that period of 7-8 months, and then a copy of their completed charter, what the charter commission comes up with, what those 15 people come up with, will be mailed to every voter in the city of Marion. So roughly 18,000 people. Okay. Now, I'm kind of a cynical SOB at times. How many people that get that in the mail do you think will read it, will try to understand it? Now, the politician's answer will be, well, I think people will all do their part and all stuff. Come on.
Right.
So how many people do you actually think will read it and will
So,
try to understand it? We'll do a little bit of research, a little bit of homework, analysis. What do you think, Brian?
I mean, I don't even want to put a number on it, but I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree. I did. So you said 18,000 voters. So like under my roof, there's 3 voters. Myself, my wife, and my one son lives with us. So
you'll have 3 copies. You
we're
can
gonna get 3
use
copies.
The extra 2 as toilet paper if you
right. Yeah. I don't. Out of 18,000, gosh, I mean, I don't know.
I think
don't
it's
know.
fair to say that only a relatively small proportion of people
Oh
will.
yeah.
And my point with that, with pointing that out, is that the changes I think that are needed, because right now we're operating under the dictates from Columbus. It's a statutory city, so we're going off the Ohio Revised Code and what those lawmakers in Columbus have said. You people up in Marion, this is what you have to do.
Right.
But thank God the Constitution, the state constitution that was drafted in 1912, gave the option for municipalities to enact home rule, to customize their government at the local level, to make the changes that make sense for their people in their communities. Now, I personally think, since we already know that people aren't paying attention, for whatever the reason, I'm not even convinced if you did a public awareness campaign and was putting signs out there and took a megaphone and tried to tell people, I'm not sure that you're getting, people or whatever. They're going to the dispensaries, they're hitting up the vape shops, they're playing video games, whatever. Most people don't really give a shit.
Right.
So you might as well, since you're going to be dealing with the same amount of people who are paying attention, that select few of people that will actually get that in the mail and think about it and research it and do a little bit of homework, you might as well make the changes across the board that are going to try to put Marion in the best position. Because honestly, I personally don't think, now maybe I'm wrong, maybe every other aspect of the Ohio Revised Code is perfect for Marion, except the fact that we have an elected auditor and an elected treasurer, and we need that to become an appointed director of finance. Maybe that is it. And then maybe Marion the streets will be paved with gold and all will be well in the land of Oz.
Remember, I said not perfect, but better.
But I don't think that's the case, Brian. I don't.
Yeah.
So I think you're dealing with the same audience, and this process is going to cost upwards of $100,000 to mail everything out and whatnot, you might as well do it right. The minimalist approach, I think, is folly. I really
Okay.
do.
I'm
I
listening. I'm listening.
100% think
Yeah.
it is.
That's a great
So,
point.
That
Jason,
is a good point. That's a great point. Yeah.
Me, I'm
any
not
closing
political.
comments?
So the team knows this. I don't know if Brian knows this or most of the listeners that watch us off and on know this, but I'm not real political. I'm more tactical and technical. So I sit and I listen and I assess, and we meet in, closed door meetings, chat rooms usually of various sorts. And then it's my job to assess and report both sides, all sides, anything that I can, for the people. So this is very interesting to me to hear a community elder, as we call them, which is what this operation was started with, was Dennis Potts and the Joanne School of Dance, parents and grandparents, and Joanne herself and my parents, and activists basically, trying to get things going with the addiction stuff and the treatment stuff and the
Sure.
overdose stuff. So it's just very interesting, and I just want to thank you for your service and having the courage to run, because we've been through every political cycle since I think 2015 or so, right around that ballpark, and it can be crazy. Um, but I really wish more people would engage with the commission and the charter, because I really think that a lot of these financial problems, and we've proven it, and Cody's a historian. I don't know if you knew that, but
Yes.
um,
Oh, I know. He's amazing. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we've gone back,
Watch your head get big.
Don't let
right?
his head
Yeah,
get too big now.
we've gone back through the finances, man, and we've consulted people from anywhere from California to Florida to Texas, IT stuff in the Philippines and Florida and all over the country. We have national
Sure.
allies, and it's just a mess all through and through. And it's a combination of, I think we agreed last time, economic conditions was a big one.
Yeah.
And I hate to use the word incompetence, but I'm gonna have to throw it out there. And it's not always blatant incompetence. It's what do we do? You know what I mean? They're not
Yeah.
qualified for the financial mess, is what I'm hearing from other financial professionals besides the people that are on the team that I consult with nationwide. And they're like, I wouldn't take that position for, a couple $100,000 until they get in there and they do something with the IT systems and the finances. Like it's dangerous. I mean, we've seen it. We got financial controls off in the IT systems that are mandated by federal and state law. And I know this because I'm an IP professional, but we have legal advisors on the team. We have legal advisors on the national team. So when
Wow.
somebody looks at me and says these financial things, this is started in 2020, I try not
Oh
to
no.
giggle or get offended, but no, this has been going on, and it got real bad, and we can chart this, and we have, right around the time of this software and the failed reconciliation module and all these switches that were off that are not supposed to be off, and we're trying to get to the bottom of that. So I mean, I think that, hearing
Is
more
there an
officials,
answer? Is there an official answer as to why they're off?
um not yet, but I mean, we do know that there were various things going on, that were documented, permission wars. We do have screenshots of the New World System with highly inappropriate user access levels for users that were not deemed appropriate to have those by global IT and financial standards. They were
Great.
no longer in
Yes.
office. Period.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable, and it's against the rules. I mean, so we're getting to the bottom of it, and we did reach out to the auditor of state. They were very receptive and patient with us. They've been very transparent, and Bill responded
Good.
to us, and he's looking at it. I know that by gauging the room when I got up and addressed, when the team, said go ahead, Dennis was the number one person that I consulted because he's the cop. He was like, yeah, go ahead. Um, it's just it's bad, man. Like
Mm.
And
it's
Jay, this might segue perfectly into just kind of touching on tomorrow's episode, because we
yeah.
have another episode doing tomorrow, Brian, and you might want to, if you have time,
Sure.
maybe tuning into that. And before we go, I do also not only want to commend you, Brian, one, for putting your hat in the ring, because it takes a lot of courage and commitment to your community, but for your years of service in law enforcement to our community over the years.
Well, thank you.
I know personally, and as a team, we're very grateful for that and for you coming on today. But I also want to thank Jay, because Jay has put in hours. I mean, hours of work.
He's a
I'm talking
man. He works hard.
I'm
4
dedicated
o'clock.
to this.
Guys up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he's writing
Jay
articles.
McDonald.
No,
No, Jake Foreman here.
me,
Oh,
the
Jay. Oh, I thought
non-political guy.
Jason. Oh, I thought you were Jason Foreman.
Top
Yeah.
right
Oh,
square,
I'm
Brian.
looking at
We
Jason.
call him
Top
Jay.
right square.
Sorry.
So, but yeah, Jason Foreman here. We
Yeah,
call
yeah.
him Jay. I mean, this guy has been tremendous. He's put in hours and hours of work that
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think
Well,
this community can repay him for, because just the amount of technical expertise it takes, the people he's talked to. I mean, I know he personally invests his own money to invest in technical infrastructure to be able to write his articles and things. So want to thank him publicly. But Brian, before we go, like I said, we're kind of time now. Was there any parting words you have for us or for the guests?
Yeah, thank you very much for doing this, and not just for having me on. I mean, thank you for inviting me in, but I thank you guys. The same, I mirror that. I thank you for doing this, and I've known Cody, gosh, for a long time, and I really appreciate him. I appreciate you, Robert, and Jay, not Jason, Jay, but. Yeah, and just doing the digging and everything like that. I've been kind of a political guy to a degree. Like my friend Kevin Davidson, as you know, is a county commissioner, and I helped him. I was able to officially help him run a campaign because when he ran, I had retired from the sheriff's office. And as far as that's a whole world in of itself where you're just running campaigns. It's just it's a job. I mean, it's what you do. And he was a dream candidate because he doesn't sit still. I mean, he's very out in the community, very active and everything like that. So with that said, that's kind of where I'm approaching all of this with the Charter Commission. If this is going to go forward, I basically approached it like, if you'll have me, then sure, I'll put my name in. When I filled out my campaign paperwork, it asked a question about what you're going to do, the questions on there. I mean, Robert, you run for office. Well, I think Cody did too, but you have to fill out the part where your financials and things like that. Well, I just zeroed it all out. I said, I'm not spending a dime. I don't have a committee. I'm not doing any of that because it's an expiring position. There's no it costs me money to run. I paid the filing fee and whatever. So, and I said, yeah, I'll be glad to do it. With all that said, if this, I don't know, people generally, Cody, back to your point about 18,000 people, if they see something on the ballot that's either they don't understand or they don't want to, they think, oh, things are fine the way they are. They're just gonna no vote it because they're like, wait a minute, what is this? Oh my gosh, they're gonna no vote it. So somehow the word has to get out if we think this is a viable thing. If this Charter Commission is going to go live, then we've got to get the word out and sell why it's going to get out.
That's one of the reasons why we started doing this, and we hope to try it. We're going to try. I mean, this gets rough. That's why we're doing it mobile, so that we don't have to try to get everybody in one spot. But try to get as many of you guys, if not all of you, on before the election, so that we can hear what you have to say. I think that's the biggest point, is to hear the perspectives of the candidates.
Okay, sure, yeah. That's the best we can do. Cody, I know, and Robert, you guys have run for office, so you know that. I mean, when you study that stuff, I mean, you got a 3 to 7 second window, like with your mailers or with whatever you do. I mean, attention spans are shrinking, and when you're trying to get out, information out to people, it's very, and that's what I remember years ago. I talked to Brett Cornelius is the first one that actually talked to me about, we need a charter, and I said, well, explain it to me. I don't even know why we need this. And he had and Brett's a good guy and he's a smart guy. He had a hard time explaining it to me. But I'm sometimes kind of thick in the head, but he made it, he had a hard time getting it across to me why we need this. And, over the years, I've heard different things, and I've heard this. And so I listen and I'm like, well, okay. And then and then it's the money, it's whatever. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But yeah, all good points and everything. But if it's going to be a thing that takes a life and goes forward, then we've got to get the word out. So,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
Brian, we appreciate
Brian, I appreciate you joining us tonight. It's been very informative, get to know you, and for all you out there, he will be appearing on the ballot on November 4th. Early voting starts October 7th. So, Brian, thank you so much. And for Robert Landon, Jason Foreman, I'm Cody Higley, and this has been the Watchman's Report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you. Good night.